Subscribe to Man Told for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. She came home a little before 9. Didn't look at me. Didn't look at the dinner I made. Just walked in, holding a bag of takeout. The same takeout she's always picked over my cooking, ever since we got married. I asked, "What are you eating?" She didn't answer, just paused. Then said one line before heading upstairs. "You're a good man. That's why I stopped trying." I stood there, still, trying to make sense of what I just heard. But then the bedroom door closed. Soft, quiet, and somehow that silence made everything louder. I met Emily 2 years ago, at a local psychology workshop. She was calm, spoke gently, saw the world a little differently. We dated for almost a year. Then we got married. It wasn't some movie-type love, but it felt solid, like something you could build a life on. I never thought someone like her could leave a marriage that fast, even though she was still there, going to work, coming home, eating, sleeping. I just wasn't part of it anymore. There's something I haven't told you. 5 days before she said that to me, I found something. Not texts, not money, nothing dramatic. Just a voice recording. Old, short, but enough to crack open everything I thought was real. I stayed quiet. Told myself, maybe it's just a rough patch. Maybe all couples go through this. But then she said it. "You're a good man." So I stopped trying. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't abandoned. I was used. My name's Derek. I'm 34. I teach 7th grade history at a public school just outside of Denver. My life's pretty quiet. Nothing special, really. I live alone. 2nd floor apartment. Wooden floors. A small balcony that overlooks the parking lot. Every evening, I stop by the corner store, grab a can of beer, something easy to eat, then head home, turn on the warm lights, put on some old jazz, and read beside my black cat, Milo. The only thing left from a time when I still believed in forever. I was engaged once. She left me for a close friend. 2 weeks before the wedding. Took me 3 years to feel like myself again. Not because I was heartbroken, but because I started doubting everything about me. I used to think maybe I was just too plain, too easy to read, not mysterious enough to make someone stay. So I went to therapy, read about avoidant attachment, learned not to beg for love from people who didn't have it to give. Then I met Emily. We crossed paths at an education seminar. I was in the 3rd row. She was up front, speaking about how to support students with trauma. She wasn't one of those TED Talk types. No big energy, no grand performance. She spoke softly, slowly, but every word landed, like she was listening to each sentence before letting it out. We happened to take the same elevator down. I told her I liked her talk. She gave a small smile and said, "I don't really like public speaking, but for the kids, I make myself do it." It was raining that day. We stood under the awning for over 10 minutes. Didn't say much, but it wasn't awkward. Just quiet and easy. I don't know if anyone's ever fallen for someone just because they made you feel calm. No sparks, no drama, no rush, just peace. We dated for almost a year. No moving in, no noise. Emily liked her privacy. I didn't mind. I'm the kind of man who can wait, if what I'm waiting for feels worth it. And I believed Emily was, but not all peace means love. Sometimes, it's just a quiet, careful setup for the storm that's coming. When I proposed, she didn't say yes right away. She just looked at me for a long time, then hugged me, tight. No tears, no excitement, just a soft exhale, like she finally let something go. Then she said, "You make me feel safe." And I think that's enough. I was happy. I thought, maybe this is how 2 broken people love. No big gestures, no fireworks, just honest hearts, trying. We kept the wedding small. 40 people, family, coworkers, a few former students. Emily said she didn't want a fancy dress, didn't care about a big venue, didn't even want a honeymoon. "All I need is a quiet start," she said. I understood, and I followed her lead. After the wedding, she moved into my place. I'd lived there alone for nearly 7 years. I repainted the office in her favorite color, built new bookshelves, bought her a meditation chair, changed the curtains. She got headaches from strong light. We split the chores. I cooked. She did the dishes. Every night I'd ask, "What do you want to watch?" She'd pick something light, nothing too emotional. We sat on the same couch, always with a body pillow between us. Week 3 after the wedding, I rested my hand on her shoulder, while we watched a show. She flinched, then smiled and said, "I'm not used to that kind of stuff." I pulled my hand back, smiled too, let it go. Told myself, maybe she just needs time. But it kept happening. I hugged her from behind while she was making coffee. She gently stepped away. I kissed her on the cheek. She said, "I'm wearing makeup." One night I suggested, "Why don't we take a day off next week? Go somewhere close. Just us. Call it a late honeymoon." She smiled, then said, "You don't have to try so hard." "I'm fine." I chuckled. Said, "Well, I'm not." She tilted her head. "I'm just not like other women. I show love in different ways. Not everyone's into hugs and kisses and romance. You're being too sensitive, okay?" I nodded, even though something in me was already getting cold. I tried my best to keep the peace. Canceled a fishing trip with my best friend because Emily said, "I'm not used to sleeping alone at night." Got up early every weekend to cook breakfast, even though she barely touched it. Bought books on love languages. Read them. Studied them. Tried not to pressure her. But the more I tried, the more I felt like I was living in this marriage by myself. One night, I was cleaning the office, the same room I left empty so she could have her own space, and saw a USB drive sticking out of the computer. I didn't plan to open it, but the file name caught me off guard. Coaching, Emily, pre-marriage. Love. I clicked, and within seconds, every idea I ever had about feeling safe came crashing down. I sat alone in the office, just the soft desk lamp casting light across the wooden table. Milo curled up behind me, breathing slow. I put on my headphones and hit play. Emily's voice came through, clear, familiar, but something about it felt chillingly distant. She was talking to someone named Julia, maybe a colleague, maybe a coach. "I don't believe in love the way most people describe it," she said. "Love asks too much. You lose control. I just want stability, a partner who doesn't burden me with their emotions." I paused the recording, then hit play again. "Derek's a good man. That's his strength and his weakness. He'll never question anything. I can live with him like a roommate. No touching, no pretending. As long as he believes I'm happy, that's enough." I pulled the headphones off, leaned back in the chair, completely hollow. I once wrote her a letter the night before our wedding, wrapped gifts, picked out rings, planned a honeymoon, even after she said she didn't want one. I thought this was mature love. Quiet, steady, the kind you grow old in. But turns out, I was just the safe option. The kind of man you can use, without him realizing it. The next morning, I got up like usual, made breakfast, brewed coffee. Emily walked out of the bedroom just as I was pouring milk. She was wearing the beige sweater I gave her last Christmas. I looked at her, a strange mix of love and distance, like seeing a stranger wear someone else's face. "Want anything to eat?" I asked. She shook her head. "I've got an early meeting. I'll grab something on the way." As she walked past me, her hand brushed against mine. First time in almost a month. I instinctively pulled my hand back. She paused, looked at me. Something wrong. I looked straight into her eyes. "Have you ever truly loved me?" She froze for a moment. "Why are you asking that?" "Everything. This marriage? How you feel about me? What you said before we got married." She stayed silent. I had never seen her that quiet for that long. Then she exhaled, slow even. "Derek, I know you're feeling insecure, but I've told you, I'm not the emotional type. I live by reason." I nodded. "Yeah, you've said that, but you never said all of it." I placed the USB on the table. "I found this in the office." She stared at it, and in her eyes, I saw it, fear, followed by calculation. "You listened?" she asked, voice lower now. I nodded. "I wasn't trying to deceive you. I just didn't know how to explain. I thought I could learn to love you. It didn't start with bad intentions." I didn't answer right away, just looked at her, then asked, "So, you've never really loved me, have you?" Emily looked down, stayed there for a while, then whispered, "I don't think I have. But I believed I could learn." And in that moment, for the first time in my life, I felt sorry for myself. After she said that, the kitchen went quiet. Emily turned away, pretending to fix a coffee mug, as if what she'd just said didn't matter. I stood there, hand resting on the chair. My heart didn't race. It just emptied. A different kind of quiet. Not anger, not pain. Just a truth finally breaking through. I wasn't rejected. I was never chosen to begin with. I was the reasonable choice, not the loved one. "You're angry, aren't you?" she asked. I shook my head. "I'm not angry. I'm just mourning what I once believed was real." She stepped closer, placed her hand on my shoulder, softly. First time she'd touched me willingly since the wedding. "I still believe, if we keep living together, I'll eventually feel it. I'm not heartless. I just don't love the way people expect me to." I looked at her hand. The same fingers that once brushed my cheek, held mine under the rain, now felt like a character in a role that didn't belong to her. "I don't need you to love me like anyone else. I just needed you to love me. But maybe you only chose me because I was easy to be with, because I wouldn't push, because I was dumb enough to think silence meant respect." She pulled her hand back. The softness in her eyes faded, replaced by something guarded, a little cold. "So, what now? You want a divorce? Because I'm not who you hoped I'd be." I smiled. "I don't know yet, but at least now I know. I'm not crazy, not too sensitive, not wrong for wanting real love." She didn't respond, but I saw it. Her eyebrows tensed slightly, and then, almost reflexively, she asked, "You're not going to tell anyone about this, right? I've got friends, coworkers. I work in counseling, Derek. If people hear you filed for annulment, what will they think of me?" I froze, not out of shock, but because her real fear was finally out in the open. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing her image. I didn't say a word, just walked out of the kitchen. Not lighter, but clearer than ever. A week later, I met with a lawyer, not to file for divorce, but to ask about annulment. On grounds of misrepresentation. I didn't want to fight, didn't care about assets. I just wanted to end something that never truly began. With honesty, that night, Emily cooked dinner. For the first time since our honeymoon, she set the table, played jazz, lit candles. When I walked in, she smiled, a little forced, but I could see she was trying. "I want to start over," she said. "I can learn to love. If you give me time." I sat down, took a few bites, then quietly set down my fork. I used to think the kindest thing you could do was give someone more time. But now I know the kindest thing is not dragging out something we both know isn't real. She didn't say anything. I stood up, left the table. I didn't walk away because I was angry. I walked away because I'd already forgiven her. But I couldn't keep pretending. Before heading to my room, I grabbed the USB from the desk and slid it into my pocket, not to keep as proof, but as a reminder that even kindness needs boundaries. The annulment papers were filed 3 days later. 2 days after that, I got a letter from Emily's attorney. She was ready for a fight, not to keep me, but to protect the image of someone who'd done nothing wrong. 2 days after the annulment papers were filed, I got a letter from Emily's attorney, just 3 pages. But after reading it, I sat still for nearly half an hour, not knowing if I should feel sad, angry, or just empty. Our client, Miss Emily Reed, denies all allegations related to entering the marriage under false pretenses. She maintains that her actions and commitments stemmed from a genuine desire to build a stable relationship. Mr. Derek Langston's dissatisfaction with the level of emotional connection in the marriage does not constitute legal grounds for annulment. Furthermore, the use of private audio recordings without consent may be considered an invasion of privacy. I read that last part 3 times. Emily didn't say I misunderstood her. She said I had no legal grounds. And more telling, in a private note attached to the file, her lawyer wrote, "Our client is concerned that unverified emotional claims may severely damage her personal credibility and professional image, especially if circulated in the media or discussed within her field." I pressed my lips together. She wasn't trying to keep me, she was trying to protect her image. I forwarded everything to my lawyer, Janet Morris. She's helped me before with my father's estate. After I explained everything, Janet asked just one question. "Do you have proof she entered this marriage with false intent?" I handed her the USB, nodded. "Listen to the first 4 minutes." Janet did, then took off her headphones and nodded slowly. "It won't be easy, but it's possible. We're not accusing her of anything. We'll just present the truth and let the court decide what good faith really means." She paused, then added, "But I'll be honest, this won't go quietly." I nodded. I didn't want quiet. I wanted clarity. The next afternoon, I was at the office pantry grabbing coffee when Ben, our media guy, walked up. "Hey Derek, your wife's been posting some pretty deep stuff lately. Just saw her new post on LinkedIn. Marriage challenges and the art of healing." "Nah, she tagged a bunch of big-name coaches too." I forced a smile. "Yeah, I haven't seen it." Ben shrugged. "Probably just motivational stuff. She's got a following, right?" But the post kind of made it sound like she was the one hurt. Like someone betrayed her? I didn't reply. But for the first time in a while, I felt oddly at peace. That feeling you get when you realize the truth doesn't need you to defend it. It knows how to find the light. That night, I got a message from Emily. "Are you sure you want to take it this far? I know you don't like conflict. I don't either. Maybe we pause for a few weeks. Try joint counseling." I stared at that message for 15 minutes. Didn't reply. Instead, I went for a walk to the park where she first leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "I don't like showing affection in public, but with you, I feel safe." Back then, I thought safe meant love. Now I understand. Sometimes safe just means finding someone who won't fight back. I typed out a reply. "You're right. I don't like conflict, but I also don't want to live with someone who uses kindness as a life raft. Instead of loving me for real," I hit send. Not to prove I was strong, but to remind myself I wasn't weak anymore. She didn't respond. I thought she'd let the lawyers handle it. But 3 days later, I received a packet from her legal team. Inside was a proposal for private mediation. "Our client is open to non-public reconciliation under the following conditions. No use of personal audio recordings as legal evidence. Both parties agree not to disclose, publish, or share details of the matter with any third party." I read it carefully. They weren't denying the recording. They just wanted to make sure no one else ever heard it. I sent it to Janet. She called back right away. "Emily's trying to protect her public image, but that also means she won't let this end cleanly. If you agree to this, she controls both the outcome and the story." I was quiet, then said, "I don't need to win. I just need to name what I lived through. So next time someone asks why I walked away, I won't have to say, 'I don't know. I just didn't feel loved.'" That night, Emily showed up. No warning, no drama. Same polished look from the day we met. White blouse, light makeup, as if nothing too serious was happening. "I'm just here to grab some books and personal stuff," she said. "Won't be long." "All right, I won't stop you." She nodded, set a cardboard box down by the table. I caught a glimpse inside. Our wedding album. I thought she'd take it. She didn't. "Derek, if this goes to court, it'll get messy. I don't want to be gossiped about. I'm not saying I'm right, but I don't want to end up the villain either." I looked at her. Not angry, not sad, just tired of holding on. "I used to want to keep you," I said. "Now I just want to reclaim the parts of me I lost." She turned away, hands tightening around her bag strap. "Don't you think you're blowing this out of proportion? This could have ended quietly." I smiled, not to challenge her, just to acknowledge something in myself. "We got here because you started something that wasn't real and expected it to end like it was." She didn't argue, but her right hand trembled slightly, nails digging into her palm. Just a flicker, but I saw it. She inhaled, collected herself. "If the court grants the annulment, are you going to tell people?" I met her eyes. No blame, just clarity. "No, I won't have to, because the people who've felt what I've felt, they'll understand without me saying a word. And the ones who only care about appearances, they don't want the truth. They just want a version that fits their comfort zone." She turned, walked to the door. I didn't stop her. She didn't look back, and I knew this marriage ended a long time ago. Today, we just had the courage to sign the final chapter. After she left, I walked over to the box. The wedding album sat between some books. I almost picked it up. Then, I didn't toss it, didn't hide it. Just left it there, a marker in time that needed no explanation. Because sometimes, the real pain isn't about what you lost. It's about how real you were in something that never truly existed. I thought that was the end. But a week later, Janet sent over a copy of Emily's submitted case file. And in it, one small line, just a sentence, but enough to make me realize this marriage was planned long before I even knew it had begun. I thought it was over. The annulment papers were filed, both sides preparing for mediation. I didn't expect much, just waiting for the day to officially end a title that never held any weight. Then, on a Tuesday morning, Janet called. Her voice was calm, but with an edge, like she was holding back something ready to break loose. Derek, I just reviewed Emily's submitted case file in detail. There's something I think you need to see for yourself. Her office was unusually quiet. She handed me a thick folder, flipped to page 9. One highlighted line stood out among the neatly printed text. Personal marriage counseling intake form. Emily Reed, date submitted, 4 months before engagement. I stared at the date. 4 months before I proposed. She'd gone to marriage counseling. Alone. I turned the page. It was a goal assessment form, handwritten in her careful slant. The question, what are your goals in building a long-term relationship? Her answer, emotional stability. A good man beside me to balance my public image. Avoid impulsive choices that could harm my reputation and career in the long run. I read the last line again. No mention of love. No connection. No trust. No partnership. Just image. Stability. Avoiding risk. I placed both hands on the table, kept myself from standing up and walking out right there. Part of me wanted to rip the file in half, but instead, I just closed it gently. Like closing a chapter I knew I'd never open again. Janet didn't speak. Not until I finally looked up. Then she asked quietly, "Are you sure you didn't see something off from the start?" I nodded. I did, but I told myself I was just too sensitive. That not everyone is good at showing affection. That some people just need more time to learn how to love. I let out a slow breath. Now I get it. Some people don't need to learn love, because they never planned on loving in the first place. I remembered a Saturday night, the two of us watching a movie. I'd asked, "Do you ever think about us having kids someday?" Emily just smiled softly, eyes still on the screen. I don't think that far ahead. I just want to feel secure right now. Back then, I thought she was being practical. Now I know. That wasn't practicality. That was a plan. A careful plan. To never get involved in anything real. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from anger, but from an emptiness so deep, there was nothing left to be angry about. Like I'd finally opened the black box in my head. The one that held the quiet reasons I'd been breaking, piece by piece, for years. And it turns out, it wasn't the crash that broke me. It was the wrong destination. Built into someone else's plan from the start. The next morning, I called Janet. I want that counseling form in the file, not to punish Emily, but so the court stops being a place for emotional arguments and starts being a place where the truth is called by its real name. Janet nodded. I'll add it. But be ready. There'll be no more mediation. I nodded back. Mediation. We were never really in agreement to begin with. That afternoon, Emily showed up. She stood at the door, holding a thin envelope. I just came to drop off the keys and wish you well. I took the envelope, didn't open it. She turned to leave. Like everything between us was just a script, and she'd finished her last line. But she stopped. You've seen the counseling file, haven't you? I stayed quiet. She knew. Yes. She nodded, eyes avoiding mine. Then asked, so softly I had to tilt my head to catch it. Then, in your eyes, what am I? I looked at her longer than usual, not to accuse, but to remember clearly the woman I once thought was my place to rest. You're the one who taught me never to beg for love from a heart that only knows how to make plans. She said nothing. Her shoulders pulled in, like someone who'd just heard a sentence with no appeal. No tears, no defense, just silence. And somehow, that silence hurt more than any apology could. She walked away, didn't look back. I closed the door. Not with force, not carelessly. Some doors don't need to be locked, because the person who stepped through them was never planning to stay. On the table, our wedding album still sat where she'd left it before. I picked it up, opened it for the first time. The first photo, me smiling wide, arm wrapped around her waist. Her, still beautiful, still composed, but her eyes, not looking into the camera. I used to think that was shyness. Now I know that was the look of someone who was never really there. I closed the album, this time for good. The truth was, you didn't leave me. You never arrived. I used to think that leaving someone who never loved you would feel lighter. It doesn't. The hardest part is facing the parts of yourself that will never be the same, because you once believed they were real. I used to think that leaving Emily would make it easier to breathe. No more pretending at dinner. No more walking on eggshells. No more polite smiles from someone who was never really present in her own home. But then I learned what she left behind wasn't in the closet or the wedding album. It was in me. The first week after the annulment, I still woke up on time, brushed my teeth, put on a shirt, left the house at 7:30 sharp, like nothing had changed. On the outside, I looked fine. Fine enough that no one questioned it. But that fine was just the polite version of, I have no idea what I'm feeling. Colleagues would nod as they passed, or ask, you doing okay? I'd smile. Yeah, I'm good. Then look away, afraid that if someone held my gaze too long, they'd see the emptiness in my eyes. At night, I still opened the door with my right hand, even though the locks had been changed. Still set 2 plates on the table, before realizing it was just me. The pillow on the right side of the bed still had a dent. I thought about smoothing it out, but left it as it was. Proof that someone once slept there, only with their body, never with their soul. One day at the grocery store, I picked up a bottle of ketchup, the brand Emily liked. I couldn't remember what I came in for, only that this aisle felt familiar. My hand just reached for the shelf, like it always did. Then I put it back, took a step back, and laughed. Not from humor, but from the strange realization, after a breakup, it's not the phone number you need to erase. It's the behavior map they left in your brain. I remembered once, Emily had asked, why do you always wear those old shirts? They look worn out. I'd wanted to say, because I like them. They're comfortable. But I swallowed it, just smiled. Yeah, maybe it's time for new ones. From that day, I never wore my favorite old shirts again. I thought that was compromise. Now I know that was the first time I stepped away from myself, to become a version easier for someone else to accept. I didn't go to therapy. I'm not good at opening up to strangers, or describing what's inside me in clinical terms. Instead, I wrote a few lines each night. No goals, no editing. I feel lighter now that I'm not guessing someone else's emotions. I feel empty because no one's waiting for me anymore. I feel regret because I once believed I could learn to be loved if I was patient enough. Each sentence pulled me back, not to the outside world, but to the parts of myself I'd lost. Before Emily, Saturdays started with a bike ride around the lake. Black coffee, my favorite country playlist, cold morning air making me feel enough. After Emily, the bike was gone, replaced by an SUV. I drank matcha oat milk, listened to lo-fi jazz, let Spotify pick moods that fit better with Emily. I thought that was compromise. Now I know that was the unspoken contract I signed, just to stay in someone's life. One day, I sat in my old coffee shop, the one where I used to spend hours reading, watching people pass by, with no real reason to be there. Same corner seat. The owner looked older, the lights dimmer, but the coffee still smelled the same. I ordered my old drink, sat quietly, took slow sips, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel the need to be okay. I just needed to be here. A friend texted me, "You've changed. You seem calmer, lighter." I replied, "I'm not lighter. I just stopped carrying things that weren't mine." And when I sent that message, I realized Emily didn't break me. She just forced me to face the thing I'd been avoiding, that I had erased myself just to exist in someone else's eyes. If you, listening to this, have ever given up pieces of yourself just to keep someone, I know what that feels like. I've lived that way. I once believed, as long as I could stay, it didn't matter what version of me they kept. But the truth is, if loving someone means losing yourself, sooner or later, you'll just be a shadow in their life. I used to think pain was something to avoid. Now I understand, pain is the alarm. It's the turn in the road. It's what makes you realize healing isn't forgetting someone. It's stopping the blame you put on yourself for trying to hold on to something that was never yours. Emily's gone, but walking out from under her shadow was the first time I truly stepped back into myself. This morning, I made a cup of black coffee. The old kind. Strong. No sugar. It's autumn now. The sunlight is thin, soft, pouring through the kitchen window, spilling across the tablecloth I used to fold perfectly, because Emily liked it that way. I sat down at a table with just one chair. Not because there's no one to sit across from me, but because I've learned not to set a place for someone who isn't here anymore. I once thought I would marry Emily, not because she made my heart race, but because with her I felt stable. There was a plan, a path, an image my family could be proud of. I thought that was love. But now I know love doesn't have to look like a PowerPoint presentation. It doesn't need to be logical, or timed right, or approved by anyone. It just has to be the right person. And I chose wrong. Not the wrong person, but the wrong way to treat myself. I don't resent Emily anymore. She did what she believed was right. And I tried too hard in silence, telling myself that if I just loved enough, everything would be fine. She didn't hurt me. I did that by wearing myself down to hold on to something that wasn't real. Last night, I found an old box in the garage. Inside were pieces of who I used to be. A stack of country concert tickets. A few half-written letters. And the leather bracelet Emily gave me on my first birthday with her. I wore it once. She'd said, "That rugged look doesn't suit you." I nodded. Put it away. But last night, I put it back on. Not to remember her, but to remember who I was before someone else redefined me to fit their standards. I don't know if I'll love again. I'm not looking. I'm not avoiding it either. But now, every morning, I don't turn to the right side of the bed. That pillow is flat. Not because someone sleeps there, but because I've learned to sleep in peace, alone. You ask if I have regrets? Yes. I regret letting my emotions be shaped by someone else's presence. I regret stepping out of myself, just to move closer to someone who was stepping away. But I don't hold anger, because I know I loved for real. I gave with the last of my kindness. And that's what allows me to leave without feeling like I've lost anything. If you've ever traded yourself just to keep someone, I know you. I've been you. I used to believe, as long as I could stay, it didn't matter what version of me they kept. But you know what? No real love will ever ask you to disappear. And no peace worth keeping comes from forcing yourself to be someone else's idea of enough. Emily's not here anymore, but she left me something. Something she probably doesn't even realize. The chance to come back to myself, fully, clearly, without needing anyone's approval. Not everyone who leaves takes something from you. Some people, when they walk out of your life, that's when you finally step back into your own